CSGO and Counter-Strike in general has shaped my life because it's given me a sense of like what it's like to be on a team, just like hockey did, a sense of success and fulfillment. And with all those things, I think it's just like helped me grow in so many ways and give me so many awesome experiences that I can't really think of doing anything differently and having a different life. I came up with my handle, n0thing, because I was shooting people in a public server. I said in the server, hey, you're shooting us like it's nothing. I remember tagging up like it's nothing, and then I shortened it to n0thing, and then I added the 0 to have like some existential touch. So I was born and raised in San Diego, California, and I grew up in a part of the city called Claremont. I think the thing I like overall about San Diego is obviously just the good weather. Growing up, lived with my whole family, which is, I have 2 older brothers, mom and dad. Yeah, we all lived here until just a couple years ago. My brothers moved out, and then I went up to LA to live with Cloud9, and now I'm back in San Diego. So it's pretty cool being here. We all kind of grew up hanging out as brothers, so going to the beach, ice hockey, beach sports and stuff, so it's fun to be back here.
I would think Jordan, yeah, he is a pretty free spirit, and he grew up playing ice hockey. He's been on teams for many years, and he likes that camaraderie, and of course his 2 older brothers like to tease him quite a bit. They're 4.5 years all apart from each other, and there was a lot of jousting, but a lot of camaraderie, and not a super egotist, but he likes to win. So, and so did his brothers. So they had a good time. We had a fun time as a family.
My dad, he's a painting contractor, general contractor for building houses as well. And he's always been working hard, but he's always been supportive. So it's cool because he stays interested in what I do. He had his own interest that he keeps up with. He was a professional drummer. He doesn't do it as much anymore, but he randomly plays for us at the house. And my dad's a pretty funny guy. We get to joke around a lot, and you know, he keeps up with what I do in Counter-Strike.
Oh, sure. I mean, I understand the game because his older brother started Counter-Strike, you know, 1.6 way back in the day. So I've been watching it for years, and I know when Jordan's playing well or when he's not, and when the other guys aren't playing well. So it's sometimes just to lighten the mood after a tough match, I'll give it to him a little bit.
He checks out on the forums or has an opinion about a team, and it's always funny to talk to him because sometimes I get information from my dad about the scene before I like wake up and check it. He'll wake me up and be like, tell me about some team recruiting someone. So it's cool because he's always been in the loop. So growing up, my mom was always pretty funny. I think most of my friends enjoyed like when they had to drive with me to like my hockey practice, or when I was doing homeschool, I kind of did charter school, so I'd travel with some kids some days and they would carpool with me. And it was always funny because my mom kind of kept a loose leash, so to speak. Like she kind of let us get away with stuff as long as it was in the comfort of like our home, or if I cursed or something, I'd kind of get in trouble, but in the sense that she's like, don't curse when you're outside, I'm going to smack you or something. But inside, we always had a pretty kind of loose environment, and she's very supportive and very caring for like what I wanted to do. Back when I was trying to go pro in Counter-Strike, it was before like there was a lot of money involved, but I was probably like 14, and my mom just knew how much I liked playing. Being in San Diego, there wasn't a lot of tournaments here. There was some LAN centers, but they weren't maybe like one-on-ones or small tournaments. So you tend to have to drive to like LA, Las Vegas, Northern California for the bigger tournaments. And on multiple occasions, she would drive me up to LA at like 9 in the morning, even earlier sometimes, 8 in the morning, so you can get there for 10 a.m. registration. And then she'd be like knitting and doing whatever for 12 hours while I played these tournaments. And a lot of times I was getting better, so I was going to the very end. Sometimes they would end at 2 or 3 in the morning, and then she would drive me back home. And so she would just kind of occupy her day and do whatever she could to help me play at these tournaments. So that was pretty awesome. There's a funny story of her like opening the back of her minivan at one of these LANs and having a bunch of like cereal and lunch and stuff, and all these other players came up and she just started offering food to everyone. So one of the biggest things for me succeeding in the local scene and probably getting the opportunities I did was getting notoriety from competing in tournaments in LA and Las Vegas, and my mom was the key factor in getting me there. Maybe one time out of like 20 of my first LANs did a teammate take me, but most of the time it was my mom offering to drive me because they weren't local. So She was really pivotal in me getting my name out here in Southern California. So when I was younger, you know, I don't know if it was like homeschooling or something, but I was always kind of reserved, which is kind of ironic when I say that to people some days now because they see me talking a lot or whatever. But I think I'm just an over-analytical person, and I think being a young kid, that just kind of played into, I wasn't like super scared of talking with people or whatever, but I was much more reserved. I was into what I was into, and I kind of kept to myself a little. And I got more confident the more I just started, like, I tried ice hockey and some baseball, and I had fun with ice hockey. And so I liked playing games with my brothers. Anything they did, I wanted to do. So I wasn't scared to try things, whether it was skateboarding, riding a bike somewhere, going off jumps. So I had a lot of fun rollerblading around, ice skating, and all sorts of stuff. And of course, casually playing video games before I even knew what Counter-Strike was. Honestly, I think I got like mostly straight A's until like my senior year when I started being better in Counter-Strike. But most of that was like just effort. But a lot of times I felt good when I did good in school, and then I just had, my parents, I felt like I got away with whatever. I didn't really do anything bad, but like I could play CS as much as I wanted a lot because I got good grades, and then I played hockey. So a lot of the problems kids get when they play games, I felt like I didn't have because I was playing sports and doing school. Some of my favorite moments from when I was younger, I have a lot in my mind I'm thinking of right now, a couple related to gaming. I remember my oldest brother played Counter-Strike, and he brought me to the first ever LAN match I played because it was the local San Diego league. And that was kind of a big deal for me because he kind of kept to his own. He was an older brother who was kind of like a little rebel at the time. But I felt really special because he included me and like made me feel really at home and brought me to like my first LAN matches. And that was fun. And my brother, my older middle brother, actually did the same thing with roller hockey and kind of brought me into the hockey world. So those are really special memories for me with my brothers. And yeah. My history of gaming started competing with my brother, not really competing, but more like competing for time on the computer almost. And that was, probably started playing Counter-Strike in betas when I was like 9. And this is before even 1.0 came out. Scope was on a Deagle and all that stuff. And I was also playing Soldier of Fortune, Delta Force, old Half-Life mods, and that's kind of how we got to Counter-Strike. My brother was kind of leading the charge on it. And then eventually, he invited me to like play with him at a LAN center, and that kind of led to me wanting my own PC, and I eventually got one for like the following birthday, I think when I was like 11. And yeah, from there on out, I kind of took breaks here and there with CS, but I always noticed I was pretty good because at the local LAN centers, I'd win these little one-on-one matches for free time at the LAN center. And, you know, still was interested in playing like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and other things on Sega or PlayStation, and had a blast with that. And as I got older, I just kept going to these LAN centers because it was like a fun social thing for me because I would finish homework in the day, and there's one near my house, I'd get dropped off. And then I would just hear kind of from people about tournaments going on in LA, or World Cyber Games at the time was a big event, and CyberX Games or something, I forget. And I remember just like kind of being inspired because I saw some Team 3D players on a box at Fry's one time, and all this stuff was kind of hitting me, and I was just like, so I got really into Counter-Strike, but I didn't know if I'd ever make money or anything. So it was always like, go to school, go to college, get like a business degree. But gaming kind of forayed when I was like 13, when this LAN center team picked me up. And so I started playing in leagues, which were Cal at the time. And then from there, it was just a kind of a steady progression of like playing Cal Open, then Intermediate, then Main, then Premier. And then I joined Grid 05, which was my first like invite level team in Cal back in the day. So playing 1.6, the first team I went, I was playing at LAN centers, 2 LAN centers mainly, GNet and Grid 05. The GNet one was, I was like pretty good, but the team was like open or intermediate. So then Grid 05 I heard in San Diego was where like the premier San Diego team was from. There was a couple of players that were nationally known there. And so I went there and played, and for a while, I actually remember trying out for a team there and just crying kind of, because after they basically just told me like, you know, like you're annoying. Like, and I was just like, that was like the easiest summary of it. But then I was good. What was funny is that was this tier 2 team at the LAN center. I kept playing at that LAN center in like 10 mans, and like 4 months later, the tier 1 team from LAN center picked me up, and I remember all the kids in the tier 2 team were like super shocked, like, why is this little kid, he sounds like a girl on your team. So that was pretty epic. And then, you know, after about a year playing at that level, I switched to another team called Amazing Gaming. At this point, I had gotten second at a national tournament, and my team was called Check 6. And within that span of the year, I kind of jumped around rosters with the same guys like Hostile and Desire and Cryptic, all these guys from back in the day. So at that point, Amazing Gaming, we won a Code 5 qualifier and got picked up by Evil Geniuses. And that was like my first pro contract that actually had like a salary, and they gave me gear and stuff in it. Towards the end of 1.6, Evil Geniuses was my team. So I was on the team essentially from 2008 to 2012. Towards the end of 1.6, I felt like I kind of had to face the facts in the sense that, you know, it was like an all right job for like a college student, but at the least I would have to go to college or like try to pursue more serious endeavors in terms of like business or whatever in like a career. So I started at Mesa College, which is a community college here, fine school, just to get my general ed. And I also got an internship at Gunner that was paid, which was for eyewear, and I was helping them do marketing. So that was cool, but I was still playing the game, and you know, it was kind of a weird blow to my ego because I was like dealing in the gaming industry, but in like this behind the scenes way, and I was like helping other pro gamers from like League and StarCraft do cool stuff. And I remember being jealous, like, man, I wish my game had more traction. And then I guess it was like the following year, after probably a year of working at Gunner, CSGO was announced as a beta, and I didn't really have much hopes for it. And then when I first tried it, the movement and everything was super awful, and it felt like Source. And that game wasn't that popular. Even towards the end of 1.6, it was less popular than 1.6. So that's where my Go story kind of started, and I was still on Evil Geniuses at the time. And there's footage of me trying the game for the first time at Intel Extreme Masters in New York, and that's when the CSGO journey kind of started.
When CSGO first came out, when it was still like early on in its development as a game, myself and a lot of other players in the scene at the time was just like, he's a beast. Like, this game is like tailor-made for his style of play. You can see it in some of his early clips where he was streaming. I know he was, you know, very early on there was a clip of him like actually kind of criticizing a certain aspect of the game, and while he's talking and having a conversation, he's just casually getting 4 kills in a round, just running forward, and you know, it just seemed so effortless to him. And so we all thought that Jordan would just be incredible at this game because it just seemed to fit his style so much.
Yeah, when I first started playing CSGO, I played the first ESEA season with like these guys from Dynamic, and it was kind of like hodgepodge. I had Swag on my team actually. It was a really good lineup. Players Swag, AZK, Adren, Volcano, and I think Kiko at one point. And Volcano, you know, made the map cash. He's like a legend of 1.6. Swag was really good at the time. Adren was one of the best Source players. So we were a good team. We barely practiced, and we were like probably one of the best NA teams. But then at the first ESEA LAN, didn't play that good, but I noticed some of my old 1.6 friends. We beat Nip on a map actually, I think. And then we beat Very Games, yeah. But then after that, some of my teammates, Semphis, Sean Gers, those players, Hiko from 1.6, were actually playing pretty well. And at this point, no one really knew what 1.6 players were going to transition to the game well. And we all kind of like looked at each other like, okay, like we weren't sure, we were kind of spread out, now let's come back together. And we actually formed a team called Quantic, which is just a team at the time who was willing to like play our way to a couple LANs. The question for everyone was like, how motivated is everyone to play the game, including myself? Like, do we still care to play? And on Quantic, Sean basically asked me like, are you ready to go? I was like, yeah, man, this is a blast. I've been wanting to compete, so that started kind of my journey back. We were on the team for a short while, and I think the next step was Complexity. And we went to the first couple majors. We got to the semifinals at the very first Valve major, which was at DreamHack Sweden. Played pretty well there, and then we got to quarterfinals at the Katowice first major. And then there is when we actually met Jack from Cloud9, and we talked to him for a bit, and eventually got kind of bought out, kind of ended our contracts and joined Cloud9 in like August 2014. You know, we were trying to find, like Complexity was supporting us in CSGO, but we knew that there's kind of a limit to their support, and Jason Lake just said we'd revisit at the end of our contract. And when we kind of talked to him and compared our conversation with Jack, who we were introduced to through a mutual friend, we actually didn't know much of Cloud9. I remember when I first heard about him, I thought it was one of those Asian organizations that just got into like StarCraft or League or Dota or something. And they said, no, they're North American, they just got a League team, and then I think they had a Dota team at the time. And they're like, oh, like let's introduce you to the owner. And I think Sean and Spencer first talked to Jack, and then I talked to him like right after we got home from the event. So after we talked to Jack a bit about kind of what the contract would look like and for the first year, it sounded like he was on the same page with us, and it was a pretty cool opportunity because they had some big sponsors lined up and we're ready to invest in CSGO. As far as an org, we just expected to have someone who can support us and make sure we basically just want to travel and like a little bit of money at the time for a salary, because really the focus then was like proving yourself as a team. We knew CSGO was like our opportunity in North America to kind of like get back ahead of the curve a little, because in 1.6 we fell quite behind with like CGS. So our mentality on the team, we picked up Shroud. We had Sean, which was considered the best strat caller, one of the top oppers at the time actually. Hiko was one of the best like slow players. I was like an explosive player when I was in 1.6. So we kind of had this mix to be like the best North American team and a top 5 team in the world. And you know, our first event together, we made it to semis or quarterfinals in Cologne, and then lost to NIP in 3 maps. And that was Shroudy's big first LAN and stuff. And you know, we just planned on kept growing from there. And it lasted for a little while until, of course, we ran into some issues with Hiko and stuff like that. Well, at the end of the year, CSGO had just been really blowing up in 2014. So with our roster, you know, me, Semphis, Shroud, Sean, and Hiko, he had some prior issues. Like we had removed Swag, or Swag actually left the team because of his really like kind of bothered by Hiko, and that was kind of neither here nor there. But towards the end of the year, Hiko decided to leave the team, and he basically put us on blast saying like, you know, he just didn't like this or that. And you know, we've amended our relationship since then, but it was really bitter at the time because he kind of didn't like something about Sean's calling. He wasn't sure if I was just didn't care about playing. He didn't like Corey's play style for this or that, and it kind of just like broke up our team. Like, all right, well, what are we gonna do? So now we decided, it was actually not terrible. We got a new sniper, which was Shazam at the time, and brought him into the team, and that actually gave us some more defined roles. I kicked it more into like a passive role, and this is actually a big point in my career because I was always a super aggressive player, and this was the first time where like, okay, well, Jordan's a pretty good clutcher, so let's just like let him be second, third man in, and kind of lurky, and Corey and Sean would do more opening with Shroudy, and we got Shazam. Worked out for a little while, but the team was just too inconsistent, and Shazam eventually, we felt like he was not fitting as a sniper, kind of playing a little bit nervous, and it was fine. He was actually a good player, just wasn't working out. Then we really came to the decision that Semphis and like we needed more of an overhaul than just one person. So we removed Shazam and Semphis, and eventually, I think our first pickup was Freakazoid, and then we got Skadoodle, and that's where the start of our 2015 team came. We wanted people who had more, who wanted like kind of certain defined roles, and I was okay playing the lurker. But we kind of had Corey as a hybrid, and we decided we wanted an entry fragger, someone super aggressive. So that's where we got the Freakazoid idea from. He's always super high skill with aim, but he was never someone who like was really a patient player. So Sean's like, that's fine, like Shroudy can kind of bait him. Shroudy's like super high skill at this point, but he wasn't taking that initiative that we wanted out of an entry fragger. We realized that Shroud was a good support, so we got Freakazoid. That kind of paved the roles even more, and then we just needed an opper. And at the time, Skadoodle had made the biggest splash in high power, just being the most like solid opper at that role, really good movement, really defensive, very little mistakes. After his team obviously collapsed through the whole high power thing, we took the opportunity and picked up Tyler. I think actually he was a free agent. So we got Skadoodle and Freakazoid, and now we finally had these set roles, and we were pretty confident. So towards the end of 2015, we had a really good summer run with the team. Like our very first event, I think we like didn't do well at Gfinity with like Ryan and Tyler. But then during the summer, we just kind of got in this groove. Everyone was really focused. It worked out well. We got to second at like 3 LANs and won like some NA LANs. And we were just playing really good, and like beating any team we kind of played. Even the top teams in the world, we felt pretty confident against. But we just didn't get to that first place finish. And then I think after the grind towards the end of the summer, it really started wearing on everyone. Sean had some other priorities with his relationship, and he was working so hard, so it was really hard for him to keep that up, and we all just kind of reached a boiling point with the team where Sean decided he was just going to step down, and then that was kind of the end of the year where we didn't know what we were going to do at the point because we didn't have a strat caller and leader, and Sean was kind of like a one-man army with strats. Like we'd give him feedback, but none of us were really ready to place him. And then I ended up taking charge of that because we just wanted to stick together, so I needed to kind of keep the team together. And that started 2016, and towards the end of the year, that's kind of where everything changed, where now we started talking about a team house. At the end of the year, we were looking for a 5th, and we actually had tried out some players. We tried out like Tarek, Automatic, and then there was one kid we never tried out, but we had heard he was good. His name was Stewie, 2K. But at the time, like I actually thought he was this little Spanish kid because I had heard him on the mic only once, and I thought he was kind of a hothead. We didn't know if we wanted another kid like this because You don't know which direction he's going to go with his improvement or if he's even going to care. We ended up not getting Tarek or Automatic in a timely fashion, so we're like, hey, you know what, we'll give Stewie a trial contract, try him out. I started leading the team, and then the team house idea came up. We were looking at it for a while. Our League of Legends guys were already in one, and we were all in a position to be able to do so. So Cloud9, with support of their sponsors, hooked us up and brought us to the Santa Monica, Manhattan Beach area. We got a team house. We got young Stewie straight out of high school, finishing up his online high school as he moved into our house without his parents even knowing, and came down to our team house, and then we started 2016. So after a couple months of me strat calling with the team, it got to a point where I realized I needed a coach and some help, and we played at the major in Columbus, and we were actually playing really well online. I would say we were the best North American team at the time. We were crushing Liquid and crushing Optic. We just beat them in like a couple other events, and just for North America. But we played at the major, and we just felt outclassed, kind of. Like, we started up 6-0 versus Navi and lost. And all that aside, Ryan decided, hey, like, he felt scapegoated on the team. He felt kind of unhappy living at the team house. And, it wasn't too personal, but he said, hey, guys, I think I'm going to step down unless I could, like, move home or something. And there was more reasons behind it, but he basically just wanted to step down. And we could tell he was unhappy. So at that point, we took that as an opportunity to say, hey, we don't see a good coach out there. Let's just get a player/strat caller who wants to call and lead the team. And at that point, it was Slemmy, was someone who Stewie had played with on SKDC. He was always known to be super organized and had good strats. And it's kind of like a Sean Garris thing, but I guess a downgraded version because he didn't have as much experience playing at our level. We brought him in. It was actually a breath of fresh air because he was a super nice guy, super easygoing, had a very good cadence to the way he talked and called strats. But in the end, his play and his strats and his vibe and energy just didn't match well with. We had Stewie, who was really hungry to play a certain way and who was really fresh with the game. We had Tyler, who kind of felt limited in the strats with Slemmy, and in the end, Slemmy was a great teammate, but it just didn't work out the way we wanted, and we were looking for someone to match our kind of play style a bit more, and that led us to Automatic. And so at that point with Automatic, when we recruited him, he was on TSM, but we had tried him out in the previous year. So Stewie was kind of our point of contact for Automatic and said, hey, Tim would be interested to scrim with us and see how it goes. First thing we noticed was super independent player, which was awesome because before, even in our previous iterations, we always felt like either we had Sean or someone needing to micromanage everything. And finally we had at least 2 players on any part of the map that could make a good decision. I was already strat calling, so I was giving a lot of input with Stewie, and Stewie quickly rose to someone who's giving a lot of information. Once he found confidence, the kid was playing so much Counter-Strike that he and Tim now became 2 good sources of information and highly skilled. So after picking up Automatic and playing with him for a week, we're like, all right, let's try to figure this out. At first, it started in a point where Stewie was calling and he was super fresh with it, and I don't think anyone knew how he played. For the first couple months, I think a lot of top teams were scared of us, and it was kind of fun because we had kind of a play style where we were playing super slow randomly, and then randomly Stu was calling, so he would just be like, we're gonna rush here, you're gonna do this, Jordan, do whatever you want, or Tim, do whatever you want. And so it made us really hard to read, but we hit a similar issue like we did with Sean, where the one strat caller was kind of running out of ideas and momentum, and he wanted more help from the team. And this is at the point where, Tim finally started feeling comfortable giving input, so he started giving more input. But then I think we kind of realized, no one here really likes being a one-man strat show where they're coming up with all the ideas, watching all the demos. So we kind of concluded we needed a coach, but we couldn't find one right away. So we did all right. We got second again, kind of like our last similar run the year before. Played well, but then we kind of hit a peak where we started regressing a little bit. Didn't play too well at the major qualifier. Didn't play too well at E-League. We won Brazil, first ever championship for a North American team. So I think some part of the reason I skimmed past that in my mind is because I think in the grand scheme of things, we realized even though we weren't consistent, we still won a tournament. And so it was a weird feeling to deal with because we saw that, hey, if we're all on point, we could beat anyone, and we all need to be there to do that. And so I think after that moment, I don't know if we took it for granted, but I think even our strat callers and even me as a player, I think we were all kind of just okay, we have a system, do we keep following this? And we got into another one of those lulls where, you could blame the schedule or whatever, but it was on us in the end, and we kind of just didn't keep up with things. So towards the end of the year, we had a break since we didn't qualify for the major, unfortunately. And that gave us time to kind of rethink our plan for 2017. I guess overall, I think one of the reasons why we all chose to move out in the end was not everyone, it's not like your own place, right? So practicing together was something that we really want to get back to in the future, because I think in team sports it's awesome to be able to practice how you play. But I think when we started traveling a lot, we kind of got to the point where we were thinking, hey, we kind of want to come home. Everyone wants their own bathroom or something, right? Those little things kind of start adding up. Outside the game, we all get along pretty well, actually. So whatever in-game problems most of us have with each other kind of fade out of the game. I'm pretty fun and easygoing with most people. So I kind of bring out the quietness in Tyler or Tim, for instance, and they kind of get more loud. Shroud, for instance, you see him on a stream, is super chill. You wouldn't believe how much this kid yells in the hotel room and says random stuff. Stu has a lot of fun. He's a little bit more outgoing too. I think all of my teammates are more outgoing on camera or off camera than maybe I am, but yeah, we generally have a lot of fun on the road. My most memorable moment has to be winning in Brazil. There's so many moments that I remember from playing Counter-Strike and being on a team that are awesome, and just some of them are small random moments with my teammates walking through a city. But winning Brazil was so amazing, and it was probably the first time a tournament made me tear up, aside from maybe one loss sometime, because I had just played the game for so long, and aside from the fact that the community thinks we can't beat a lot of these top teams, it just meant so much to me to get a win and to stand there with the boys, especially in front of the opposing crowd where there's 10,000 people, but you only hear 100 cheering. It was still gave me goosebumps, even gives me goosebumps now just talking about it, because in the moment, I even remember losing a round and punching my desk, and I don't think I had punched my desk in 2 years, just because I'm just a pretty mellow guy. And it was just a weird sensation, because for some reason from the quarterfinals on, I felt like we were going to win the tournament, and I just felt super confident, and to follow through with that win and to share it with the boys and lift the trophy, it was just something that I hadn't experienced winning smaller tournaments before. So I think some of my best memories of gaming are just a lot of the extracurricular outside of gaming. You see my vlogs, I'm friends with all these pros. I've stayed at one of my friend's houses in Sweden who was a pro player. E-League took me to a haunted house or something. I went to NHL games at tournaments. I streamed in an airport with my teammates and talked to thousands of kids on the internet. I think just in general, experiencing fans, experiencing cities and different cultures, and getting that experience as a pro gamer that is probably bigger than we ever expected to get out of it, and getting all this cultural fun and kind of just checking out all these cities is really probably the highlight outside of competing. I think what separates the best players from the good players, obviously it's a lot of small details, but to know exactly what those are, I can't pretend like I have the ultimate answer, but I think part of it's attitude and part of it's just how you gather and react to the experience you get. I met a lot of players who had super sick aim and movement, but the way that they thought about the game or the way that they approached their weaknesses or their strengths, they just didn't put two and two together, and sometimes in the way that should have been. And so I think sometimes it's just simply attitude and the way you approach practice. One thing to remember when you want to become the best is a lot of people want to win, but there's a lot you need to put in to win. And I think you just got to remember that hard work isn't always as fun as it might seem to be a pro gamer. And just remembering that it's not always how much time you just play the game, but it's what you put into that time that is really going to make you good. What does CSGO mean to me? CSGO is basically CSGO is a hobby, is a passion, is a job, is a grind, a struggle, a battle, a succession. It's all these things wrapped in one that just represent kind of passion. Some of the goals I have for myself are to continue staying involved in whatever projects around esports, mainly just because I love the scene. Before I quit, I would love to win multiple majors in 1 year. Whether it's a major, Valve major, and then another tournament. I just want to win multiple tournaments in a year. And then beyond that, potentially helping other players in the scene, whether it's through owning a team or being an agent or working for another company. I have different options I've thought of in my mind, but it's hard to set a clear goal in esports because the scene is kind of dictating itself as it grows. So my goal is to kind of just stay busy and not get too complacent.